Welcome back, finally. Normally you have time for a cup of tea. I reckon there was time for a three-course meal there. Sorry about that. We had a few technical problems here at Sheffield Live TV behind the scenes, but we are back with you with part 2 of Talking Sheffield Sport with Rob O'Neill, Sheffield Wednesday's online commentator, former Sheffield Wednesday and Leeds United and Norwich, among others, player Jon Newsome, with James Gregg joining us, is going to round up everything, including a big game at Bramall Lane last night as well, which has been largely overlooked. That's in your roundup. But obviously we're debating what went wrong and what went right, because an awful lot went right for Sheffield Wednesday in the past season. And let's just, well, try and cheer Owls fans up a little bit, because there was one highlight moment for you, Rob, last night. There was one really big give it everything for you and John Pearson moment.
It certainly was. I mean, John actually says after this goal goes in, he says, still a long way to go though, because all the lights came on, didn't they? It was the light show again, and he was getting a bit nervous because there was still a long way to go. But you know, when Fletcher manages to get it right, we certainly bounce off our seats.
A lot of people enjoyed that moment. Let's relive it.
Tom Lees up towards Fletcher, tries to turn it inside. Kieran Lee's after this one. It's now Kieran Lee on the ball. Lee goes towards the area. Still Kieran Lee. Oh, it's tackled. Didn't release the ball. But there's Fletcher backing up, working out towards the left-hand side. Padil pulls it back now for Bannon. Steers it into the box, looking for Fletcher. It's Fletcher! Stephen Fletcher has broken the deadlock with a header into the corner.
Got it now!
Fletcher scores at the Cop ends. 50 minutes play. Bannon's ball in, and Fletcher scores. It's the Scottish connection that could be taking Wednesday to Wembley.
Come on!
Wednesday lead. Huddersfield Town by a goal to 0.
Wow.
There's a very professional press box. Scene.
Impartial.
Fantastic. He does it on Radio Sheffield as well, doesn't he? You know, he doesn't hold back with that.
No.
There was one last year where he was at Cardiff, and I remember listening to it in the car, and I thought, that doesn't seem right. And Wednesday had just scored, and probably a minute or so afterwards, you could hear it sort of going on, and apparently what happened was, this Cardiff fan had turned around, shut up to John. So he's gone, right, taking his headphones off, and he's gone down and had a word with him. So sort of Rob Staten was filling in for sort of 2 or 3 minutes whilst he carried on.
Well, John towered over this guy. Yeah. He's such a gentle guy.
Great moment that, though, wasn't it? You know, I know obviously it wasn't the result.
It wasn't in the end. We're going to spare you the commentary on the equalising goal and the penalties.
How difficult is that to do then? Is it, you know, moments like that, obviously you've got your allegiances, you've followed it, you live and breathe it, and difficult to sort of keep it in check, I'd imagine, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's some games, you know, particularly when it's running away from you as well, where you're doing your job, but you're equally not really wanting to commentate. I remember one game, actually, it was when I was working for Real Radio. I think we were getting battered by Forest, and I did a match report that lasted 5 seconds, and I said, I think that's the thing, I said, easy, one more, easy, this is just pathetic, or something like that, and you just signed off. So I was completely cheesed off at that point. So sometimes it can be hard, but you know, by and large, the quality of football we're seeing in the last couple of seasons, it's a lot more enjoyable to watch that than some of the things we've seen in the past.
We're going to pick up with penalties, because we ended the first half with it. We didn't quite get through it. Jordan Rhodes and the controversy, and Jon Newsome. I was with David Holdsworth, another member of the Centre Halves Union, earlier today, and he was exactly on board with you. You know, if you're not confident, you don't take one. You were involved in a penalty shootout with Norwich once, weren't you?
Yeah. We were away at Bolton in the League Cup, and same thing. You know, we'd got a number of players who were going to take penalties. You know, we'd gone through it a little bit. Went to the penalty shootout. Who's taking them? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lads. Blah blah blah. Memory serves me right. I think we were 3-2 down, and it was the 4th penalty, and I was captain at the time. So I turned around and said, right, who's next? And every one of them just turned around and looked the other way. And I said, no, who's next? You know, who's number 4? They just said, no, you just, they didn't want to do it. They want to do it. You've got to do it. So that was it.
So you did it.
So I ended up going and taking it, and thankfully scored. Right. They missed the next one, and then we scored the next one, and we got through.
So the order, it can be decided before a game who's taken them, and that can change at the spur of the moment. So it's possible that Jordan Rhodes was in the penalty taking.
May well have been. We
just didn't feel right.
Talked about these permutations with it. You know, you might have got 7 or 8 lads who say, yeah, I'll have one. I'll take one, Gaffer. I'll take one. And if you're a little bit, oh, I don't know if I fancy one tonight, you know, let somebody else step up who's confident to do it. And that's as simple as it is for me.
Devil's advocate, what is there to fear in the sense that nobody... Oh, OK, we remember the names, but we won't remember the names forever, of Sam Hutchinson, who had a magnificent game. And, you know, if anybody deserved to bury a penalty, it was him. And Fernando Forestieri also busted out there. And those two had penalties missed or saved, depending on... Nobody is going to blame them for that. So you could... Devil turning it round... What are Jordan Rhodes to fear? Because nobody was ever going to say, "Hey."
I don't think that's the reason you would opt out of taking one. I think it's more to do with your personal pride. You want to win. Your teammates. You know, if you're not 100% positive and confident you're going to score, then why would you take that spot when there might be somebody else who is 100%? You know, confident that they're going to score. Because at the end of the day, it's about getting through, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the other aspect to all of this, and it's a reflection not just on football but on society, and we talked about it before the programme, blame culture.
Yeah.
There's always got to be somebody to blame. Now, it was a collective success that Sheffield Wednesday were in the playoffs, and over 2 games against Huddersfield, it was a collective failure to win a match, a tie that probably they should have done. So why are we looking at individual? Why are we blaming the head coach or the?
I don't know.
Jordan
I don't
Rhodes?
know. It started this morning. All I said was, you know, I just think it's unfair that people are turning on Jordan Rhodes for not taking a penalty. I think it's a bit of a nonsense, and you know, it shouldn't be aimed at him. And that was the catalyst. What lit the blue touch paper, to be fair.
And also,
you gave better than you got,
and off it went.
I've got to say as well, you know. Seen that stat the other week that Wednesday scored their last, whatever it was, 27 or 28 goals of the season, all with Jordan Rhodes on the field.
Yeah, until that goal from Fletcher.
Exactly, until then. And people are going, oh, well, £10 million and all this. I think, well, actually, he may, whether he's justified it or not, the price tag. But it doesn't matter. He's not chosen that price tag, has he?
That's the big thing.
It doesn't matter if you decide him on a free. You can't use that argument, so it's completely irrelevant, isn't it? That's something riled you, John, wasn't it?
Yeah. It's you know, a transfer fee is something agreed between the 2 football clubs, isn't it? You know, it's completely irrelevant to you if one club wants to pay, and the way that the football is now, with the window and the desperation to get players in, and you know, with 2. You know, transfer deadline day, you know, it's all over TV, isn't it? They all wear the yellow, and it's this big hoo-ha, razzmatazz thing, and prices get hiked and overinflated, and you know, it's irrelevant to a player, really.
It's the same when we talk about depression. That's another subject, you know, that's in the news, and it doesn't matter how much money you've got in the bank. You know, it can affect anybody.
Absolutely.
We're thinking like an individual as well. We're also saying, why didn't Jordan Rhodes take one? Why didn't Atinui? Why didn't Adam Reach? Anybody else? You know, in the team that you would have. Those 2 names I've just thrown out there. Yeah, you know, I would have expected them in the 5.
Yeah. But
they weren't, and you know, it's a lottery. Anything can happen in a penalty shootout. You could score, you know, 5 out of 5 on the training ground on the Friday or whatever, and then come to match day, you know, whatever reason, another goalkeeper you don't know who pulls off a worldie. You know, Ward's also a good goalkeeper as well. We all forget that.
Yeah.
And he looked massive in that goal, didn't he?
I think the other thing is as well is you cannot reproduce that moment.
In training.
You can do it in training. You can practice, and you do, and you know, you get that, you know, that into that groove, really, that niche. But you cannot reproduce the nerves and what happens at that moment when it's a penalty shootout.
We were talking about signings just then, and the fact is that the bigger signings since the end of last season, a lot of them have worked to varying degrees. Some of them haven't worked at all. And the bigger ones haven't been spectacular successes, to the extent that, astonishingly, that team last night was only 1 man removed from the team that played Hull in the losing playoff final. That was Fletcher was in, obviously Hooper out injured. So the recruitment's got to be better,
and really,
in future.
Up until Gary Hooper getting injured the 2nd time, you know, he'd come back and he'd done marvellous, hadn't he? So, you know, chances are, if he'd have been fit...
That's been one that worked.
He may well have, He may well have actually been playing last night.
Yeah.
He was the big miss, wasn't he? Because he linked things up. All of a sudden, I think Carlos described it as the fish that was missing. Do you remember when he was talking about his potatoes and the fish and everything like that? And it did appear that he was the linchpin, because all of a sudden he came back and he wasn't scoring a load of goals. I think he got one, but he just seemed to have the movement that made everyone else look a lot better. And it's like that jigsaw piece, and it all just came together when he was back. And he was a big miss for these two. I think that's a bigger point than going on about penalties over and over. If he was there, I would have felt confident we could go on. I would have picked Huddersfield, and I would have picked Reading if that was the path we were going to take. But ultimately, we've fallen down. And
do you think backline as well? Not so much the centre backs, but full-backs, does that leave a question? Because Huddersfield were causing all sorts of problems down Wednesday's left-hand side consistently last night.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's probably an area that they need to strengthen. I think the whole of the back four. You know, I like Tom Lees. I think he's good. I think Glenn Louvens is doing great, but you know, he's aging. But for me, I think it's been calling out for a big, experienced, vocal centre-half who pulls people around and gaffers people, and you know.
Think of anybody?
They're worth the
I've
wait.
got a few years. Oh yeah,
I can think of one.
I'm just thinking of somebody in that mould.
No.
And somebody dynamic who can get right with a bit of pace, like Huddersfield had one or two.
Yeah.
Which I think was pointed out following the playoff final. And they've had wingers on loan, haven't they? You know, since then.
McManaman as well, yeah.
And
I mean, he looked quite promising on the occasions we saw him, but for whatever reason, he didn't get a regular run in the side. Whether it's his work, I think that's why Adam Reach has had an extended run, because one thing you get with Adam, even if it's not going for him going forward, he'll always put a shift in, and he was doing his bit defensively. In the end, he ends up playing up at the left-back position with Daniel coming off.
I thought he looked more dangerous last night, Adam Reach.
I think the thing is, though, the way that they set up, or it seems to me the way that we set up, we don't play with wingers. No. You know, we have two wide midfield players, but they're constantly coming inside, and that's probably been one of my criticisms this year. That for me, the centre of the pitch is too compact. There's not enough space. We don't create enough space. I'd like the wingers to stay wide, and that allows balls into the strikers. It allows your midfield to play. You know, I think we get too condensed.
Okay, we'll come back to it to round off. James, everything else?
Three sort of bit. It was not quite at Bramall Lane either at the moment, because there's been three cup finals in the space of a week since Sheffield United finished their season. Newfield School wrote their name onto the prestigious Clegg Shield after beating Forge Valley 4-2 on penalties. 1,000 spectators, not bad for a school game. That was the final of the oldest schoolboy competition of the world. I'm sure many of you at home will have played in that at some stage growing up. And last night it was the Northern Counties East League League Cup final at Bramall Lane between Penistone Church and Bridlington Town, easy for me to say. Curtis Woodhouse, of course, their manager, friend of the programme, and Penistone, they ran out winners by 4-1. Just having a little look on Curtis Woodhouse's Twitter during the first half. He just said his side simply weren't good enough. So there we go, a fair assessment from the gaffer. And Bayton Magpies ladies as well, unbeaten in finishing in their Sheffield and Hallam Counties Ladies League Division 1 champions. They completed the double. They win 6-0 over Dronfield Town in the Krakowski Cup final. And just over a week to go, of course, as well at Bramall Lane, till Kell Brook's big title fight. Of course, he's defending the IBF World welterweight title as well. Are you guys going to that one, are you? Kell Brook fight? No? No?
I'll be watching on television, though.
Oh, well, of course you will. Yeah. Absolutely look forward to that one with bated breath. Sheffield Tigers Speedway, they're in action as well tonight. Just got underway about 20 minutes ago at Ollerton. They beat Scunthorpe on Sunday. They were rained off last night in Suffolk. Of course, playing Ipswich tonight then as well. They were meant to be playing them last night. City of Sheffield's swimming star Max Litchfield as well. Might be a name that you remember from Rio 2016. Of course, he was in the men's Olympic final of the 400 metres, and he broke the British record in the 400 metres, 4 minutes 10.63, not bad at all. And he'll be joining Adam Peaty and Hannah Miley on Team GB in Budapest at the World Swimming Championships. Toulouse beckons for Mark Aston's Eagles. They play against the French side on Saturday in the Championship. Last time out for the Eagles, they smashed Bradford Bulls, which was very enjoyable. 52-16 in their last time out. And also finish off something for you, Alan, maybe. Triathlon, your cup of tea?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe. Well, entries are invited for the Rother Valley Series 2 Triathlon. It's at Rother Valley Park on the 4th of June, and it's for Help for Heroes as well. You can log on to the internet and signing for that one. Is that something you guys fancy? A bit of triathlon, is it?
My entry will be in the post.
Right, okay, might get lost, yeah?
Possibly. Let's put it honest, I'm not going to put a first-class stamp on it, that's for sure.
Fair enough.
I'm going to check with the guys next door briefly. You know, this programme runs like clockwork, thanks to guys just the other side of the camera from where you're watching. But we lost some time during the break, and my counter down there says we've got 8 minutes and 26 seconds left.
Yeah,
oh, we have.
Right.
I've got a thumbs up. So we're making up the time. We've added time. The referee has added time. Talking of referees, Keith Hackett, big Sheffield Wednesday fan, former FIFA referee, as we know, based in Sheffield, decided not to go to Hillsborough last night. He's also a big supporter of Penistone Church.
Right, okay.
He does a lot behind the scenes for the club, and he got his priorities right for Keith felt, so he went to Bramall Lane to watch that game, and Penistone Church won.
Maybe the right decision, eh?
He probably made it. He did make
Probably
it.
had a more enjoyable evening than the rest of us.
Yeah. Had he been at Hillsborough, I talked to him today, I think he'd have been very impressed with one man that's not been mentioned, Andre Mariner. I don't know about you, I thought he was exceptional. Had a good game, kept it going. And
he didn't do a lot wrong, which I always think is a good referee. When you don't talk about him, he doesn't become a central point. Yeah, so he blended in. Let's
not talk about him anymore. So what changes are you looking for? You know, I might be biased. I hope Carlos stays. If I'm guessing, I can't speak on behalf of supporters. I would guess a majority of supporters would hope that as well. Do you detect that?
I think the majority probably would.
Yeah.
I think it's probably, you know, we talk about the expectation, and that's the problem. You know, the Wednesday fans are, you know, now thinking we are a top side, we're getting top players, but you know there are a lot of good sides knocking around, so we can't all win. So yeah, I think that the majority would want him to stay around.
Yeah.
But as I say, it's all about making some decisions early, and I do think the recruitment this summer we've got to get it right, because I think there was a few missteps. And this time we've got to be spot on with it.
How important is stripping the squad down, though? Because you look at it, it's enormous. And there are players on there nowhere near it that are getting paid a lot of money.
Absolutely, you know, it's like dead wood, isn't it? You know, but the problem you've got in this day and age is where do you offload those players to? Who's going to take those players on such massive wages who've not played football competitively for 12 or 18 months?
Yeah.
You
That's
know?
the danger of having a big squad, isn't it? Because they're not getting the game time, they're not showcasing their abilities. You know, if people are going to look at players to buy from Sheffield Wednesday, you'd perhaps be looking at the ones who were playing last night. You know, if you were a bigger club, or maybe in the bottom end of the Premier League or in the Championship.
You're not seeing them.
And you're not.
Absolutely.
The ones who are on the bench or not involved. Why would you want to buy it on the big wages?
And they won't. You know, most of them will not want to take a pay cut, will they?
No, they won't.
You know?
Talking about, I've made a note while you were talking there, talking about finals, because I previewed mentioned Sheffield Wednesday under-23s in that final against Hull, which I went to on the Friday night last week. Thoroughly enjoyed. You were there as well, Rob, were you?
I didn't, but I did see, you know, the way they got on, and I see Mr. Hurst scored again. Was it 36 for the season now?
36,
so he looks quite
goals.
A prospect, and it was Williams and Hurst on the score sheet, wasn't it? That brought back memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Williams and Hurst. George Hurst, 2 goals, 3-1 win against Hull. He did look the business. He really did. Yeah. Have you seen him?
No, I've not seen him. I've not seen him play really. I've seen a couple of video clips of him, and not been down to the under-23s really. I think the last one I went to, he wasn't playing in. But it's all about, for me, it's all about nurturing him and you know, not
get him out on loan next season.
Possibly get him out on loan, but I think the problem for me is that the structure of football. You know, he's going to be playing in the under-23s now. I look back to, you know, when things were different, and when you were good enough in the youth team, you broke into the reserves, and in the reserve team, in the Pontins and the Central League as it was, if you remember, you'd come up against some, you know, good 29, 30, 35-year-old centre forwards who've been round the block more times than. You know, and you learn more in that 90 minutes. I remember playing against Leicester City when I was 16, 17, and we got stuffed 6-1, and I learned more in that 90 minutes than I'd done in years in the youth team. And they miss out on that now, don't they?
Yes, they do.
You know, they don't get that kind of football. So the leap from the 23s to the first team.
Yeah, and suddenly come up against some grizzled centre halves. Bigger.
Bigger.
bullying.
Does that come back to that point you were making as well about, you know, these big squads that Wednesday and other teams have got now? Almost when a senior player plays for the 23s, it doesn't actually help them because, you know, Wednesday had a few sort of slip-ups as they were going for, you know, the title and what have you, because they played a few senior players and maybe they don't fancy it, there's no crowd, and, you know, it's not the same as like when you were coming through and I'd say there was 5, 6, 7 players that were all knocking on the door of the first team, and now, you know, the kids aren't getting the benefit. That's why I think someone like George needs to go on loan, because then he'll toughen up. I think Lavery did that when he was here, and he benefited from a few loan spells.
Good point.
I think that's probably the best route for him next season, because he's got 4, 5, 6, you know, senior strikers in front of him, so it's going to be hard.
Yeah, absolutely.
If he'd come through 3 years ago, he might have been playing. You
I
know?
think the concern for sending him out on loan really is that is he 18, 19?
I think so, about 18.
You know,
yeah.
so you send him out on loan, and you want somebody to look after him the way that you're going to look after him at the club, and he, whatever standard he goes to, whether it be, you know, Division 1 or something.
You should be able to handpick your club and manager, and depending on how the style of football, because you can imagine the queue that would be.
You know, if he goes in there and he plays 2 or 3 games and he gets 2 or 3 big knucklers who you know, go through him, and you can soon put the lad's career back 6 months by trying to blood him too early. You know what I mean? So it's a very difficult, very fine line. It's a very difficult decision to make, really.
It's changed really, I suppose, since David himself came through at 16. He was playing for Barnsley at 16. But physically, he was perhaps a little bit stronger than George at that age.
He probably played in the reserves at 15.
Yeah.
And he played against men at 15 and handled it, you know, and you know, there wasn't that much pressure on him as there would be playing in the first team in Division 1, and that's what I'm saying about the reserve team football. I think they miss out on.
And of course, he carries the pressure of the family name as well. Great benefit, because he's got somebody the best to learn from. But he'll always be, his father's always going to get a mention, isn't he? Yeah. Right, that near enough completes the show. We've just got less than a couple of minutes left. Would you be confident of another serious promotion bid next season for the Owls as we sit here now?
Yeah, I think so. I think the expectation level was raised dramatically from last year to this year. I think possibly this coming season, the expectation level may maybe drop even a little bit, because it's going to be a tougher league next year. But you know, you've got to be aiming for a playoff spot, if not. You know, I mean, top two is going some, isn't it? It really is going some. But depends what your recruitment is. Depends what decisions they make going forward. You know, it's all up in the air, isn't it?
And what is it about Sheffield football and playoffs and penalty shootouts? And
Not very good at them, are we? Hey?
I used to think we were good because we had one experience and it was all successful, that Hartlepool day. But the last 2 years have not been too great.
So in the playoffs, then I think somebody came up with a stat for me today. I think Huddersfield have been in the playoffs 5 times and have succeeded every time.
Under Mr. Warnock, a couple of them as well.
Once. Yeah. Peter Jackson, I think, was one of them. Saw that at the Millennium Stadium against Mansfield. That was some years ago. So anyway, it keeps us talking. Not what we wanted to be discussing this evening, but that's life and that's football. James, Greg, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robin, and as ever, Jon Newsome.
Thank you.
We're going to have a Blades flavour going forward. That's an absolute promise. If you missed any of this, do catch up. 11 p.m. repeat, or it's on my YouTube channel tonight. Meantime, thanks ever so much for watching. See you next week. Bye. Bye.